Greetings, it's Francesca Lynn Arnoldy here to read a couple of excerpts from my new book, The Death Doula's Guide to Living Fully and Dying Prepared. And I just want to go through the different parts first. So part 1 is orientation, develop a foundation of compassion. Part 2 is preparedness, open to death wellness. Part 3 is pause and practice, strengthen your coping techniques. Part 4 is processing, explore what feels unfinished and undiscovered. Part 5 is projects, clarify and share your authentic self. Part 6 is planning, draft your wishes for care. And Part 7 is say goodbye, parting gifts. So in the initial part 1 of the book, I have a chapter on connection. So this is a section from that chapter. Cultivating connection. How does it feel to be connected to yourself, to others, and to the world at large? When we are lonely, we often feel adrift and sometimes lost entirely. We may notice a physical sensation of heaviness or pain in our chest or gut. On the other hand, connection leads to contentment. It feels like returning home, to a safe haven. This home is a warm, familiar place of refuge that provides security. It might not be one we have actually resided in or even visited. Yet we can forge it within ourselves, the groundwork being self-compassion. Through contemplation and practice, you can reinforce a sense of connection internally and to your experiences, and carry it with you throughout upcoming explorations of who you are, what you fear, and any expectations you hold. First, take some time to consider what connection means to you as you complete the following exercise. Write freely as you consider the prompts. So this is the exercise. Remember a time you felt truly connected. This could be the experience of a strong link to a supportive person or beloved companion animal, the natural world, your own sense of self, or a larger source. Describe the process of connecting and any associated feelings in detail. And then there are a number of blank lines for journaling. So that's an example of one of the, a preface to an exercise and an actual exercise. The next one is within the part 2, which is preparedness, opening to death wellness, and in the mortality awareness chapter. How did loss itself first visit you? What theories, messaging, or beliefs do you carry as a result? Are they unshakable truths or malleable ideas? Take some time to reflect and write what comes to mind in the following space, including any lasting impressions. So just a couple of lines there, and then a return to more text. Have you been able to share your personal experiences or perceptions with others? To reinstate and reinforce death literacy, knowledge of the dying process and death care system, we need to tell our stories and develop our understanding from hearing other people's accounts. In service of this, allow me to share my first experiences with the end of life. The first time I sat close to the dying process was at age 24, when my aunt was terminally ill. Before getting sick, she had been so full of life, with a true skip in her step. It was unfathomable to believe anything could slow her down, let alone rob us of her final decades, given she was only 49. Pancreatic cancer, especially at that time, was a force well beyond the reach of medicine. When my cousin called to let me know her mom had been admitted to the hospital and that I had better come quickly, I wasted no time. My coworkers sent me off with hugs. Before leaving home, I paused to write a quick note to my aunt, a farewell of sorts. I rolled it up and tucked it into the arms of a sweet stuffed bear she had given me months prior. I didn't have a clear plan for its use, but I thought it might act as a comforting and protective object, a talisman of sorts. Soon I was at the hospital in a room teeming with loved ones flanking my dear aunt, who undulated between groggy consciousness and sound sleep. Those of us in attendance did not know what to do with ourselves or this time. It felt strange as well as devastating. Later in the evening, fewer than a dozen of us remained. At this point, I followed my heart and asked for a few minutes alone with my aunt, a gift my cousins and uncle gave me without pause. I carefully climbed onto my aunt's hospital bed, cuddled up against her weakened body, and unfurled the note I had brought. I read it aloud, voicing my gratitude for her loving, uplifting presence throughout my whole life. Though she could no longer open her eyes, she mustered the energy to whisper, "I love you." Mere hours after I left, a tear fell from her eye as she released into the mystery of death, with her adult children and husband holding her hands. So I go on from there and talk about my grandfather's death and my experience with that, and what I witnessed and what I received as his final lessons. And then I also make sure to note that not all deaths unfold in the same way, that some are more complex. And so then I open up the conversation to talk more about the different ways that death has visited the individual readers and processing that. So as you can see, this book is part how-to. It has a lot of practical tools and approaches that can be used for our own mortality awareness, as well as work we offer to patients and clients in terms of planning and preparing and expressing ourselves fully and authentically. And then it's also part journal. There's a lot of space for writing and reflecting. And then throughout, I weave in stories to sort of bring everything together and create the threads through the themes with accounts from my personal life as well as my work in volunteering.